get your position.
Yeah, so I would say that I think the less abortion, the better. I would say that I think that there can be legitimate use of state regulation. I would say that it should always be targeted towards the medical practitioners and the medical institutions themselves rather than any woman who's going to get one. In the same way that any type of unlawful medical procedure like removing someone's kidneys target the medical practitioners for that. When it comes to the idea though of when exactly we
There's
grant,
a whole lot of yaps.
I think there's a lot that can be said there.
There's a lot of that's true.
Well, you asked me. I was asking my positions.
This isn't telling us your position. Like what?
I want to be
You're just
about
talking.
details.
I'm sorry, I could
Well,
not
we kinda
contain
just-
myself, but Poker just yawned.
Yo, the way he yarned was hilarious.
Yeah, Peter, do you know
That
what?
was boring.
No, I mean I don't think that was actually more ad hoc, to be honest. Look, do you just have some reasons which would favor your conclusion being true? Specifically, an argument with premises that lead to the conclusion that you're defending. Do you know what that is, Peter?
White Peter.
Peter
Just
Parker.
exited the app. Yeah. I would say that, well, when it comes to, I think moral intuition is going to be the bedrock of any type of moral argument when it comes
What's
to...
your conclusion?
Yeah, my conclusion is that we should try to eliminate abortion as much as possible. We can...
Abortion is morally permissible. Wait, abortion is morally impermissible?
Lame ass soundboard. No, I'm just playing.
Okay, so abortion is morally impermissible. Okay. Now,
Yeah,
what are going to be the premises which lead to this conclusion?
Yeah, well, no, I'd say generally. So I'd qualify by saying generally speaking, because of proximity to consciousness, we
Okay,
felt...
I want to say abortion is generally... when you have an unspecified statement, it's already a general statement. When you say abortion is morally impermissible, you don't need to add the general. It just already is a general statement. So...
But you can qualify it because people take different positions to the extent which it's viewed as permissible versus impermissible.
That doesn't negate what I just said, though.
No, but I'm just
You're
qualifying.
saying abortion is generally morally impermissible. I'm just saying that you don't need to add the general because it's already a general statement. Because
I think in these conversations, it's going to be asked, do you believe in any exceptions? So I thought I'd just qualify from the get-go. I think it makes sense to do so.
just give the argument for why most situations of abortion is morally impermissible.
Yeah, because I think of proximity to morally relevant features about human organisms, like their consciousness. I think that in order to have a consistent standard, then we're going to have to say that once there's a unique human organism which is going to have these morally relevant features, if it's not unalived, then we should ensure and protect its right.
Okay, so what's premise one?
I mean, I can formulate, a specific deductive argument if you like. So it would be, so I could say something like, if unaliving an adult human is impermissible, then unaliving a fetus is impermissible. Unaliving an adult human is generally impermissible, therefore unaliving a fetus is impermissible. And the reasoning is going to be because there's no morally relevant distinction which would justify unaliving one. Generally speaking, that couldn't also be used to unalive the other. I think people like Singer are consistent when they say that if we allow for abortion, we're going to have to allow for infanticide, morally speaking, to be consistent. But the issue I take with them is that we shouldn't allow infanticide. Therefore, we also shouldn't allow abortion, generally speaking. We should work to reduce it.
Oh my god.
Great, man. That's great. Who's writing your argument?
It's a whole lot of yap.
Tucker, clock his fucking tea already, damn.
Please do, seriously. There's so many.
So if killing an adult human is impermissible, then killing a fetus is impermissible. Killing a human is impermissible. So abortion is morally impermissible. Well, if you're just gonna say abortion is just the killing of a fetus, that's fine. So then it's a valid argument. Now I'm gonna want an argument for the conditional, and I guess specifically before we even get into the conditional. I just want an argument for the predicate within the conditional. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, but no, I would say there's no morally relevant feature which would justify one but not the other.
I asked for like the predicate
Yeah,
though.
but what predicate? What predicate? There are a variety of predicates there.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
So, but which
So when you make a
predicate?
proposition, there's a predicate. So that's the question for you. Yeah, what's the predicate?
Of what?
The proposition.
But there are two propositions there. So which one are you asking for? The first one is the conditional, and then the second one
Yeah, premise
is
one.
yeah. So
Yeah, premise
how do
one
we?
is one proposition, right? So I just want the predicate. So when you say,
Dude, you guys dig into this
Killing
way
an
too deep.
adult
It's really simple.
permissible, or tell me the predicate you're cashing out.
Wait, do you think there's one predicate of a conditional?
No, there's two.
Exactly. You just said
Yeah,
one.
I specified. Yeah, I specified.
Yeah.
Did you hear my specification?
So which one are you asking for? The first one or the second one? I don't think this is.
I said the first one.
Favorite.
Killing an adult human is impermissible. I asked that one. I specified.
Yeah. So, say it again. I didn't hear you.
So killing an adult human is impermissible. What's the predicate?
Yeah. But if killing an adult, it would be impermissible. It's impermissible to kill an adult human female.
Yeah,
Human.
but they tell me like the predicate you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you tell me the predicate you're using?
Yeah, I'm predicating of the action of killing a human, male or female,
Do
an
you
adult.
understand the question here? Obviously, there's a predicate, but there's different kinds.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it depends on the context which you're asking. That's what I'm saying. So it would be
What do you mean depends on the context of
predicating
your argument?
impermissibility to a particular act.
What's the predicate?
We're predicating impermissibility, impermissible.
No, obviously that's the predicate. But there's, okay, here, I'll just lecture you real quick. So there's different kinds of predicates when you make an argument.
That's why I'm
There's
asking.
substantial,
what are
wait,
you
just
asking
calm,
for?
yeah, there's different kinds of predicates. There's substantial ones, there's relational ones, and there's going to be quality kinds of predicates. Are you familiar with this concept?
You asked me how to categorize the type of predicate that I'm employing. Yeah, it'd be a categorical one, sure.
Okay, so
You just
if it's a
specify-
categorical. Wait, just hold on. Yeah, so when you're applying some categorical predicate, you're just saying that there's like some substantial predicate, where necessarily it's going to be the case that killing a human being is wrong because it fits in the category, or substantial in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily have to say it's substantial, but sure, we can, especially if we adhere to process.
I mean, if
ontology.
it's sufficient, then it doesn't seem like you have an issue.
But
So
not everybody posits substances into their ontology.
I grant that.
And I think language is an extension of that. So
No, I grant
it doesn't
that. Not
have to-
everyone
it doesn't
uses
have to be
substance.
that.
That's why there's different kinds of predicates.
Yeah, it's going to be categorization based upon certain features of the subject that we're concerned with.
Yeah, no, I acknowledge that. Yeah. But
Yeah, so-
anyway, so just what's the argument for this then? That killing a human is going to be in the category of impermissibility.
Yeah, well, I would say that because there are certain morally relevant features, such as certain types of consciousness and cognitive functioning, the ability to have relationships, because these are morally relevant, I think it's just by virtue of moral intuition, these are worth preserving, these are worth having public and social norms that are dedicated to preserving and upholding the rights of anybody who falls into
Okay, you said that there's morally relevant features like sentience. Why
Yeah.
does it say morally relevant feature?
I would
And
say
also, too, that just seems like another thing which would fit in the category. Wait. I'm sorry. Just to be clear, it's going to be the case that this is a morally relevant feature insofar as that it is a motivator to do not to do an action or to do an action.
could be both.
Okay, it could be both. Okay. Well, sometimes, for example, harm, right? That's going to be the kind of thing which is in favor of not doing an action. So I just wanted clarification. But,
Yeah, but
okay, why is this going to be the kind of thing which is morally significant?
Yeah, well, it's only moral intuition. I think that it ultimately boils down to this. I just intuit in the same way that I intuit there's an external world, but I know that I'm speaking to people rather than hallucinating right now. I just have basic intuitions about how I ought to act, how other conscious
seems to
subjects
be
ought
the
to
case.
act. Pardon?
It just seems to be the case.
Yeah, ultimately. I can, give arguments, but those
Well, I
arguments are
grant that
going
it seems to be the case, but I just want some reasoning justifying it.
Yeah, I mean, because I would say that there are certain types of qualitative properties only present in experience, like that of pain and pleasure. So one example would be if somebody is capable of feeling pain and pleasure, then we should try to minimize their pain and maximize their pleasure. I would say that if we...
But this doesn't explain why it's in the category of impermissibility.
Yeah, it does, because
Oh, it
it's
doesn't.
impermissible.
You're just describing what sentience is.
But I'm making the normative claim following from that it's impermissible if we recognize certain morally relevant features of an individual.
Yeah, but
organism.
that's what's in question. What's in question is why it's a morally relevant feature.
morally impermissible to violate these. I would say the only way we can...
why? That's
So would you agree that if we
problem.
can acknowledge that these are morally relevant features, then
pivot.
we can arrive at the conclusion that they're worth preserving?
I don't know why you're asking me questions.
Because
Could you
because
just,
I've
like,
already
explain
answered.
why this is in the category?
Because we should be concerned with dividing what's morally permissible and what's morally
Yeah,
impermissible.
what's in question
with
is
respect
why
to
this is
certain
the
morally
kind of thing
relevant
that
factors.
is morally significant.
Yeah, I would say that certain types of
Yeah, but-
conscious
okay.
experience, we just intuit that they're morally significant.
Like, that's great that this seems to be the case, but I want the argument for why this is the case.
No, I don't have I can't argue for my intuitions. I don't think you can. Nobody can argue for their intuitions.
Wait, no, I can no. You're confused. I grant that you have the intuition, right? You don't need to argue for it. I just want an explanation or further elaboration on what makes these intuitions true. Right, for example, I can have an intuition that I'm holding an apple, right? But presumably, if I make the claim, well, you want some evidence. Okay, well, this is my intuition, but let's utilize some reasoning to verify this intuition being true. Okay, well, I can use input sensory, right, to just, use my retina to verify that this thing exists within my hand. I can feel it, things of that nature, right? Utilize some evidence or some form of reasoning.
Okay, but that would also rely on further intuitions. I would say that we're justified in accepting certain intuitions unless we have overriding counter evidence. And I'd say unless I'm going to be presented with that, then I'm rationally justified and continue to hold my intuitions.
Wait, okay, so you're saying that we should just say it again?
So,
What did you say about intuition?
so we're rationally justified in holding to certain intuitions unless we have overriding justification that we encounter.
Why?
I mean, I think that's just...
Why are we justifying intuitions? Why is that rationally justified? And what do you mean by rationally justified?
Yeah, well, I think that all beliefs are going to boil down to intuitions. Either have you heard of
Wait, do you think that beliefs are intuitions, or do you think they're separate?
No,
You
I
said
think
belief
that,
boils down to intuition, which, by the way, if that's just going to be a necessary condition to have a belief, then you saying it's intuitive isn't informative at all, because what's in question is the belief.
it could be the case that beliefs stem from intuitions, or they are types of intuitions.
Yeah,
I would say that-
when you saying it's intuitive isn't informative whatsoever. Obviously, I grant that it's intuitive to you, but I want some evidence suggesting that this is true.
No,
Right.
but
I want evidence for the
Are you familiar with
belief.
Agrippa's trilemma? Are you familiar with Agrippa's trilemma?
The Gripper trilemma?
Agrippa's trilemma in epistemology. Okay, so the trilemma is concerned with how our beliefs ground out and bottom out. So it's either going to be the case that they bottom out in a circle, they bottom out in an infinite regress, or they bottom out in axioms. I'm taking the position that they bottom out in axioms. These axioms are what we ascertain by virtue of intuition. They don't need further argumentation.
Wait, when you say axiom, what do you take an axiom to be?
It's a properly basic belief that doesn't require further justification. Give me 30 seconds, by the way. I'll still be listening, but I just need to do something.
Yeah, it's fine. Well, axioms to me, and it probably isn't going to be very distinct from my definition, but I just take axioms to be kind of theorems, which is operate as a groundwork for a specific framework of beliefs. But some people take it that axioms are going to be one's framework, but I don't take that to be the case, but more so the groundworks would make up a framework. So they're just theorems for a given system.
So would you agree, though, that it's a true trilemma to posit that our justification, that our beliefs are going to either ground out in fundamental axioms or in circularity or in an infinite regress? Is there another alternative that hasn't been
When you
considered?
say intuition is going to be let's just say some sort of axiom, you understand axioms are kinds of propositions. So you're saying what we have intuitions, is that the axiom that you're employing?
I said it could either be the axiom itself or it could be the means by which we know the axiom. I don't think too much hinges on that. I could sway either way on that. Doesn't matter.
I don't really see the point in positing an intuition as like an axiom. It just sounds
How do
like
we
you're saying
know?
it's a foundational belief, which I can grant that. I mean, it can be like it could be like some like foundational belief that, or it could just be like trivially true that okay, we have intuitions, we have things that seem to be the case, or we have seemings. That's fine, but I don't see like the significance in saying that.
But how do we know axioms? How do we know what correct axioms are?
How
we
do you
know that.
what axioms.
I'd say the process by which we know is one of intuition, if you can even call it a process.
By the way, I don't know why you're asking like if we have like some knowledge of axioms. What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah,
Wait,
well,
why are you asking this question?
because if we don't have knowledge of them, then they're not going to be justified beliefs. But I'm maintaining that these axioms, including moral axioms, essentially are justified beliefs.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're positing moral axioms? You know, like moral axioms deviate from like traditional like understandings of axioms, right?
Depending on the theory, it can.
Yeah.
there are-
well,
but by
well,
axiom,
so
I
like
just mean
moral
not
axioms
depending on
really
further
are just like analytical for. Yeah, moral axioms are like more so like analytical reductions on like terms such as good and bad. Traditional axioms don't really operate that way, right?
No, but
Yeah.
the conventional definition of an axiom in this context in epistemology would just be a proposition that doesn't require further argumentation to justify. So like, I think there are truths about morality that fall into this category. I think there are
Yeah,
truths about logic, about the external world.
Yeah, it's just a proposition which is like self-verifiable and doesn't require evidence. It's self-evident. I grant that, right? But the thing about that is that like things such as like one's framework. I mean, I guess it depends on how you're applying it. You're saying that this intuition is going to be like the building blocks for your framework, or just like, really just integral to your framework. I guess hold on. Let's lay something out clear. Just explain to me how an intuition is going to be relevant or any like more like has any like moral significance.
Yeah, well, in the realm of, in the domain of morality, Agrippa's trilemma when it comes to our moral beliefs is still going to apply. So either they're going to ground out in axioms, which is the view that I take, they're going to ground out in an infinite regress, or they're going to ground out in a circle. I'd say the other two are incoherent or extremely implausible.
Okay, you said it's going to ground out in an axiom.
Mm-hmm.
The axiom is a self-evident proposition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you just take it to be a self-evident proposition. All right, that's fine, but my question was, how does this have any moral significance? Like, when we have, like, moral axioms, right, they're just analytical reductions on, like, terms such as good and bad, right? So if I say, like, well, you know, positive utility is good, and someone asks me, well, why is that good? Like, okay, it's just, like, tautologically true. Like, you know, it's just true by definition, because good in utilitarianism is positive utility. So that's why I'm trying to ask, like, okay, well, what is intuition and how does this like have any significance within your moral framework?
Yeah, I don't think
It just seems like it's some like
tautological
epistemic tool rather than like some moral, like a thing, a part of your moral framework.
Yeah, but because they're related, I don't think they necessarily need to be tautologies. I would say that certain basic moral principles, such as we should be committed to reducing pain, all else being equal, that's something which I don't think requires further justification or further
Well, you
argument.
could think that, but I need the justification. I mean, it can sound like intuitive to you, like that it's like wrong, but I would still like need the justification. I need to make sure you're systematically correct.
I don't give arguments and justifications for what, for how I demarcate between beliefs which I accept based upon intuition versus beliefs which I don't accept upon intuition.
Yeah, but I already grant that you have an intuition when you make these claims, right? You're not really saying anything substantial, because at least to me, it just seems like, well, you're saying you have this belief, and a belief is just, you know, an affirmation towards a proposition, right? Obviously, I grant that you have an affirmation towards this proposition, but can you just give the justification for why it's true?
No, because axioms don't require further justification. That doesn't mean that I'm not rationally justified in believing them to be true. They don't require additional external justification based upon some type of
What do
argument.
you think, okay, hold on. You're saying that, well, it's an axiom, but it doesn't seem like you demonstrated, like, how it's an axiom at all, because you never explained how it corresponds within your framework.
Like,
You just said that intuitions are axioms, and that asks, okay, in what sense is it going to be axiom within your moral framework? And then you never gave any like explanation or any analytical reduction on the terms good or bad. Like when you have like a moral axiom, like I said, they're analytical reductions on these terms or these prescriptions, right? But you never said any way in how intuition relates to these things at all.
No, but
It seems like there's going to be some categorical error here because like it sounds like an intuition is just going to be the kind of thing which is related to your epistemological commitments, not really some moral commitment.
But if you can accept that the moral proposition, which I mentioned earlier, is something which in my view is axiomatic, then it doesn't make sense to ask and require.
But we gotta you gotta justify why it's
no.
axiomatic.
Why do I have to justify an axiom? How can you justify?
Okay, they're presupposing that. Why is it axiomatic?
No,
Like,
I intuitively just assent to it just by virtue of considering. I mean, I'd ask you, how do you justify the law of identity or if a particular deductive syllogism is valid? You can't. You just intuit it. So let's
no,
look
it's not
at
intuitive. No, it's not that it's intuitive. No, the reason why they are self-evident is because they operate as theorems within a given system. Right? To have said system, right, is going to be the case that they're founded on these specific like propositions.
How do you argue for that for somebody which somebody disagrees with that? So I'll give an example. So let's take the syllogism. All men
But
are
no, you
mortal.
need to but you need to explain why they're a foundation to the system. That's why I've been asking for analytical reduction, like, or an explanation for how it's related to your framework, right? You can't just be like, well, it's an axiom, right, and then not further explain. Like, I can explain why the laws of logic are axioms, right? Because they are going to be these theorems which operate as the groundworks for a given system. Explain to me how these are going to be the kind of things which operate as theorems for a given system.
So, no, I
moral
explained
system
why they're classified as axioms, and that's just because they don't require further justification. That's it.
Yeah, but there's a reason why. Okay, you know, axioms are specific kinds of propositions.
There isn't a reason. No, I don't agree that there's a reason.
All right, this is just
It's not.
you're just saying, well, it just is an axiom. It's like you need to explain why.
No, I didn't see why you need to explain why. It's just brute. That's just how it is. How would you explain why the law of identity is an
I
axiom?
just explained. Oh my god, I just explained.
No, and you couldn't that wouldn't convey the adequate type of information to somebody who's a dissenter, who disagrees. You'd ultimately just point down to other intuitions.
No, it wouldn't be other intuitions.
Would be.
You're just saying that it's an axiom. Like, okay, do you think that you could just say a proposition and just call it an axiom?
Yes.
What? Wait. So
As long as it doesn't require further justification to accept it, and that's something which, is subject relative, sure, in a sense. That's
but
what
do
it
you
makes.
know why? But do you know why some propositions don't need further justification, why others don't? I'm sorry.
I don't-
Why some propositions don't need further
criteria.
explanation, and then why others do? Like, do you
I
know?
don't have
why?
no, exactly. So you want a reason how we can, as to why we can
Yeah, there's
demarcate.
there's reasons. There's reasons which explain why some propositions are axioms and why others aren't.
No, I don't explain that.
Okay, then you're not justifying how it's an axiom then. What?
But you don't need to justify how it's an axiom.
Yes, you do. What?
Nothing further than what I've already said, which is that it doesn't require further justification to
Yeah,
accept
you're
it.
just stating that. Okay, you're just begging the question. You're stating it's an axiom. That's what axiom is. Just it doesn't require further explanation. Great. Explain why it's an axiom.
No, but you would agree. Now the question you're asking is what's a principle or criteria we can use to demarcate which propositions can genuinely be categorized as axioms and those which can't. And I don't provide an explanation. I don't think you need
Okay,
to.
so you have no explanation for why it's an axiom, bro. Oh my.
Yeah, nobody has an explanation for why any proposition is an axiom. It's just brute. That's just how it is.
What? No, there are Dude, have you like read anything on like axioms within like logic?
Obviously, I've read, well, you can propose one, but I don't think it's ultimately successful. It doesn't get you out of the same problem, which is going to be that it relies on intuitions and how do you determine which
No, it
axioms.
doesn't. Oh wait, an axiom isn't an intuition, bro.
There's a very close link. Yeah, axioms are just what we accept by virtue of our intuition. We intellectually understand the proposition.
They can
and
be
by virtue of
intuitive,
adequately
but
understanding
we
it,
don't just
arrive at the conclusion
arbitrarily.
that it's true.
No, Peter. We don't arbitrarily just pick a proposition and just call it an axiom to say it doesn't need further justification. That's not how that works.
It depends on what you mean by arbitrary, but how else would you give further justification? You can always be asked to give further justification. You collapse into an infinite regress of justification, which doesn't get you anywhere.
No, it's not. That's not. Okay, look, when we have an axiom is a formula assumed to be true within a system used as a basis for inferences. Right, so it needs to apply, so it can be self-evident or true by virtue of its given system, right? And it's used as a basis for to form inferences.
Why does it have to be with
So
reference?
I just want. So when you just say, "Well, hey, something is intuitive," okay, right? You're just saying that it's going to be self-evident within a given system, right? That's what makes it self-evident is
What do you
because
mean
it's
by
always
given-
true within said system. Yeah.
Why does it have to be with reference to a broader system? I don't understand why.
The pro education is here.
Okay, this is always this guy's.
No.
Anyway, sorry, say it again.
I can't even remember what I said. No, I said, what was the question you asked? I forgot what I just said.
I didn't ask.
Yeah, no, I'd say, okay, why is it the case that it needs to reference some broader system?
As a case, it needs to.
Yeah, you're saying with
Yeah, that's what
respect-
makes it. Because that's what makes it self-evident.
Why? Why? You need to give justification for
Yeah,
that.
I could probably try to give an analogy.
Yes.
So if I say like, well, we have a system where we just make inferences, right? Where we utilize premises which lead to a conclusion. Okay. We can have certain theorem. You know what a theorem is, right? Oh yeah, assumed to be propositions, blah blah blah, things like that, right? Or just these like kind of descriptions, right? These theorems are just going to be the necessary conditions to even make the inferences in the first place, right? To make said inferences in the first place, right? We need the law of identity, law of non-excluded middle, and law of non-contradiction, right? And then we understand that when we utilize these propositions within this system, they always are true within said system.
Why do we need
these things are always true? Wait, what's up? Go ahead.
Why do we need these axiomatic propositions to make inferences?
Why do we need axiom? Wait, I'm sorry. Say it again. Why do we need axioms to make inferences?
Yeah.
That sounds like a confused question. If we don't have the law of identity, then I mean, there just isn't a proposition in the first place.